Hi everyone, today we're going to look at a very simple liquid AIO coming from Valkyrie known as the V360 Lite. Now this package is very unique. I'd like to thank Valkyrie to have sent this unit for me to share with everyone. First of all, this package is in fact a carrier. Sweet! And when you unbox it, it's very simple. You just have the instruction manual that is protected with the Ziploc bag, and that's all you have. The radiator, the pump, and the box of accessory. To my surprise, when I unbox this box, it comes with two packages, and this package contains all these items nicely packed. And starting on my left, you have this nut tool, which is good, which I often complain that for Intel, especially the tight corner, right, you should have this kind of tool to fit the standoff, which Valkyrie did this. Well done. Then you have the back plate for the Intel. Now this back plate is metal and has a protective film, so the metal will not short your your shouldering points and such. Nice thought. And you have the 1700 or the 1851 standoffs, and these are for the 2011 standoffs, followed by the AMD bracket for your AMD platform, AM4 or AM5, and these screws over here. Now these are meant to lock down these brackets, but you can use the original screws from the motherboard where you have the original brackets, which I'll show you later, to use it on this bracket. It's just a additional thought from Valkyrie. They have supplied you with additional screw just in case if you lost any of the original screws from the motherboard. Nice thought. Then right on top you have this fasten brackets. Now what are this for? It's mainly used on both platforms. I will show you how this is being done, and kudos to them. This locking nut for this fasten bracket, right, it's attention to details. See the design, the Valkyrie wing. Nice touch. I like this. Very delicate. You have a bag of 360 screws, which are the long screws and the short screws. The short screws are meant for you to mount your AIO radiator to the case. Else additional long screws, right, I believe this is preparation for you if you want to do a push-pull configuration, cause on the AIO itself, right, the fans are already fastened to the radiator. Well done. Velcro stripes, there are a total of 3 for you to do cable management. 3 tube holders, okay, with a very subtle logo. Nice. And another thing I like, they have the separator, so when you mount this to the tube, okay, it will be parallel. Nice. I like this. A tube of thermal paste, and of course the instruction manual and the warranty policy, which I showed you earlier, is protected by the Ziploc bag. And last but not least, the unit itself. This unit does come in 2 colors, which is in black or in white, and it has 2 variants, which is the 360 or the 240. The fans are pre-installed on the radiator. I'll start off with the radiator and the fan. Let me remove this off. I'll talk about the fans later. Now for the measurements of the radiator, it's at 397 by 120 mm, and as for the thickness, it's at 27 mm. Now the whole structure of the radiator is made of aluminium, and it has a very nice logo of each side, a shining logo, Valkyrie. Same goes to the other side. And as for the fin stack of the radiator, as I measured, it's at 20 fins per inch. Nice braided holes, as you can see over here, and the tube length is at 450 mm. At one point at the pump, these are swivelable, and unlike the swivel point, it's very flexible. See, easy and not so tight as compared to some of the liquid AIO. And if you have not noticed, right, it has a very unique design of how they do the swivel. I'll talk about the swivel point in a short while. At the other end, This is without the swivel point. It's fixed. Now back to where I was. Why do they have designed it this way? Well, if you are to mount the radiator at the top of your case, and if you mount your the pump to your processor, see, you can swivel all the way flat, so that there's no obstacle and such. Nice thought. Same goes to when you do it with the hose at the back. Okay, you can swivel this point, adjust it accordingly. See? Now coming to the pump, it has a very interesting feature. But before I do so, let's talk about the measurement. Be it the length or the width, this is at 74mm, and the height is at 68.5mm. Now, something unique about this, be it whether you place the hose at the bottom towards the RAM or even the top or the back, right? This cover you can remove and to orientate it. Unique, eh? And another fantastic feature which I like, you can remove this top so that you can have better grip on the pump when you're mounting it to your IHS. Having a small surface area and to grip, right, is better than to have a bigger surface area, cause the rigidity, right, the amount of unsteadiness when you hold the block, right, will be caused by the bigger surface. So having a small surface, right, you have a firm grip on it. Okay, assuming that I'm mounting it and I can just screw the screw threads. Nice thought. Now for the specification of the pump, at max RPM is 2800 plus minus 10%, and it's running 12 DC. There are a total of 3 fans, as this is a 360 liquid AIO. The construction of the fan is very sturdy, and there are patterns at the side. See, nicely done. And best part of what Valkyrie have done, right, they always have pride in doing their equipment, the attention of details. Take for example the rubber grommets on both sides, which you have the 4 corner over here and 4 corner over here. These rubber grommets are not stick to the fan. Instead, it's a whole piece. See, this will definitely absorb lots of vibration and to reduce turbulence and noise. So imagine that with all 4 corners, right, having this, the absorption will be great. And inclusive when you do the daisy chain, right, from fan to fan, right, the rubber grommets are sitting together with this section over here. So this will absorb all the noise and all the vibration. Nicely done. Now, it has a very unique way to daisy chain. As you can see, they are making use of their own 7-pin proprietary connector to daisy chain to one another, and these are very short, so keeping the cable management easy. And over at the other end, right, which is here, you'll be connected to this long extension cable where it splits off to the 3-pin 5V ARGB connector and the 4-pin PWM fan connector. And as I mentioned, they always go into details. See, you have the logo Valkyrie on the ARGB connector. Fantastic. Now these are 9 bladers. Okay, you will scoop tons of air, and with the assist on the blade, take a look, it's been angled. See, with all this cutting, it will definitely scoop lots of air. And I noticed that the blades are rather short, but with a purposes to reduce the wobbliness. See, when I flip right, take a look, it's not wobbling. Nice. And all these are ARGB fans. Now for the measurements, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a standard 120 by 120 with a thickness of 25mm. And as for the specs, oh, by the way, these are known as the Valkyrie B12 Black ARGB fans, and the max speed is at 2150 RPM plus minus 10%, and the minimum RPM is at 800. The airflow is at 81.68 CFM, and the static pressure is at 4mm H2O. Wow, the specs is pretty high. Later we shall see how it performs. And amazingly, right, the max noise is at 30.5 decibel. I guess this is due to the fact how they designed the fan blade, and the drawing voltage is also amazing at 0.2 ampere. So normally fans that draw at this amperage, right, should not having so much static pressure, but this seems to have at 4.0 mm H2O, plus the fact that it's of a lower decibel, which is at 30.5. Most that I've encountered, right, is 35 to 38 decibel if you are ramping up all the way to 2150 RPM, but this does not. So we shall see. The preparation of Intel is pretty straightforward, and it does support socket of 11.5x, 1200, 20XX, inclusive of the latest generation, which is the 1700 socket and the 1851 socket. With me is a 1700 socket. Things that you need is the backplate, the standoffs, the fasten bracket, and the fasten bolt, and of course the handy tool. First thing to do, flip over your motherboard toward the back where you expose the 4 holes. Now push this out so that this is meant for 1700 or 1851. If you were to push this in, right, this is meant for the 11.5x or the 1200. So make sure you have this all out, then align all these 4 threads to the holes. Okay, no force is needed, you just wiggle and you will just stick in place. Now I hope that Valkyrie will consider this having double-sided tape over here to tape on the frame, so when I flip the board, right, this will not drop off. So with this said, right, since there are no double-sided tape, I will need to support it and to flip the board over. Now still holding on to the back plate, see, I'm still holding. Take the standoffs and anchor 2 point. Now I would advise you to mount this outside the case on a flat mat. It will be easier. If you place your motherboard in your case, right, you're gonna have trouble, you know, fastening the backplate to your motherboard. Now as for the standoffs, right, take note this side having a hollow surface, else this is a flat surface. Make sure the flat surface is facing upwards. So I'm just going to anchor 2 point. Alright, take your time, do not rush things. Once you have anchored the 2 points, you'll be able to place the board flat. Then to finish up the rest of the standoffs. Okay, right now it's done. I can put it down. Now let me just zoom in and to show you clearer. See, I've anchored 2 standoffs which hold the backplate. Now as a reminder, as mentioned to you, the hollow side is facing downwards. The flat surface is facing upwards. So you can right now place this in. Now as mentioned to you, that corner, right, I hate it so much because my fat fingers can't really screw the standoff properly. So with this said, right, Valkyrie have thought about it. They provided you with this tool. So all is needed, just insert it. So make sure the hollow is facing upwards right now because you're fitting into a tool. Then you can plug it in. It's pretty straightforward. Once that's done, right, just do hand tighten for all corners to ensure that the backplate is hold properly with all the standoffs. Next, you will need to place these fasten brackets. Now, if you do notice carefully, right, the labeling on here, there is an arrow pointing saying CPU. Make sure it's facing this way, okay, and not the other direction. Take note on the wings, so it's this way, where the arrow points towards the processor. Now for Intel, you can place it this way or place it this way, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to place it this way. Okay, probably I'll just place it this way. You just slot and that's it. Now something to be mindful, when you're mounting the fasten bolt, right, try not to use your fingers to fasten, as I noticed that over here, right, there are sharp corners. You can make use of this tool. Okay, just put it in, okay, and to screw it. Maybe at the initial start, sorry, this is too deep. maybe at the initial start, but just be careful. Okay, just anchor it. Alright. Then once you have done that, you can make use of this tool to fasten it. As mentioned to you, right, these edges here are pretty sharp, so don't get cut accidentally. So using this tool, I can just slot in and to tighten. See, it's pretty straightforward. Again, you don't have to over tighten it, just hand tight. So I just hand tight this, and to the rest. Next thing you need to do, place your processor, wipe with alcohol, make sure it's clean. Next thing will be the pump. Now for the pump itself, right, before you remove this, take off the cap and take off this, so you have a better gripping. Anyway, you can't mount it with this on. As you see, the screws, right, is being blocked by this cap. Okay, let me just zoom out. Okay, so make sure you remove off both caps, the top cover and this cap. Then you align this two thread over here to here, while holding on to the block. Now I'm not gonna place it down based on the fact that I forgot to mention this. You have to remove this as it comes with a pre-paste. Then you can mount directly, having the 2 points pointing towards here. Then make use of a screwdriver. A trick to it is hold on to the block, okay, while you're doing the screwing. So do it bit by bit. Let's say one turn over here, one turn over here, one turn over here, one turn over here. Do it diagonally so that you will have a even pressure applied to your IHS. Now, assuming everything is done, you can now port this back. Now, do take note on the wires itself. Okay, when you port it back, right, make sure it's facing this way. Then, with the direction of the arch over here to align with the tube, slot it in gently. See, it will be in place. Then next, feeder with this cables first. This will be for the pump. Make sure you connect this to your pump header on your motherboard. As why using the pump header, right, because that has the sufficient amperage or more amperage to cycle your pump. So I know for this board, right, it's at AIO_pump. I will plug this over here. Then next will be the ARGB plug from the pump. So what you need to do is quite simple. Plug the 3-pin 5V ARGB to the ARGB header, which is over here. So once this is done, right, you can port back the top cover, depend on the orientation. Okay, well, you can see the chip over here and the logo. This is the correct orientation if you want to place it this way. If your hose is this way, then you got to turn. Alright, and the last thing that you need to do not forget your radiator fans. Now for the 4-pin PWM fan connector, plug it to the CPU fan 1, or should I say CPU_fan, because this is the master controller. And some boards are pretty fussy, just like ASUS, whereby if you boot up, you have no CPU_fan connected, right? You will prompt you saying that there are no CPU_fan plug to your motherboard. Well, that is a safety precaution. So have this plug. Now, coming to the ARGB for the fan blade. Assuming you do not have any more ARGB headers on the motherboard, you can daisy chain this, okay, it does have this speed out. Daisy chain it to your pump ARGB connector, and at this end plug to the ARGB header on your motherboard. So this will control both the fan blade ARGB and your pump ARGB, and this is done. For AMD Platform, it supports AM4 or AM5 but not AM3. First thing you need to do is to remove off this bracket, and the screw, just retain it for later usage. Now, things you will need for the AMD Platform are this bracket, the fasten tool, or should I say fasten bracket, and the fasten bolt. These are the only 3 items that you need, and of course you can make use of the tool for the fasten bolt. Now, as mentioned to you, retaining the screws, right? Valkyrie does give you this package which says AMD. This is in the event if you lose the original screws, you can make use of this. But for me, right, since I've not lose any, I'll just reuse back the original screws. So first thing you need to do is to place this bracket. Okay, let me just zoom in. As you can see over here, right, the bracket, it has the arrow sign pointing towards the processor. Okay, not so sure if you can see. See, it has a arrow sign. So make sure you place it this way, okay, and not this way. So once you've done placing onto it, okay, probably I'll do one side first. Now, for my style of doing even pressure of the bracket, right, for AM4, right, normally I'll just press my finger over here and to place the bolt, or should I say the screws, and to tighten them. Now, I will screw to a point where it stops and will not tighten further. Same goes to here. Based on the fact that why do you not do this, right? If you over tighten one side, right, the bracket will lift up, so giving you uneven pressure. Once you have done this, then I'll just hand tight, followed by the other end. Again, placing my finger on the bracket so that it sits on the motherboard, then anchor the 2 point. Now, there's a difference between anchoring and to tighten it. Anchor is just to fasten it till the screw stops screwing further in. Okay, it's just a gentle motion. See, I'm not doing too much tension. Once you've done this, right, then you hand tight. Okay, this is done. Next will be the fastening bracket. Now, do take note on the orientation. See where it says CPU with the arrow pointing towards the processor. So you're supposed to mount it this way and not this way. The wings should be showing out. Okay, as you can see, the direction of the arrow. So up to you, you can place it this way or this way, it doesn't matter. But for optimized purposes, right, where I told you to have the holes at the bottom is best. So I'm going to mount it this way. Now, something to take note. If you can see, this will move about. I would suggest you to fasten with the bolts. Alright. Not fully tight. Push this out. Okay. So that, okay, just to show you, so that it will be parallel, see? So once you've done this, right, still having your finger pressing to the bracket, pushing outwards. I will explain to you why. And do be careful of the edges, it's very sharp. Then make use of this tool, fasten it. Just hand tight will do. Once this is done, right, do the second end, which is over here. Again, pilot, or should I say pivot, or anchor your bolt. Okay, do not tighten it. push it down again, right? Then you fasten. Now, reason to push this outwards, the thread for your block, right, will be just nice. If this is moving inside, right, then you will have a problem mounting your block. Once this is done, put on your processor, clean it with alcohol. Okay, let me just zoom out. Clean it with alcohol and to wipe it dry. Next is for your pump. Take out the top cover and take this out. Reason to take this out, right, because as you can see, right, it will obstruct you from screwing the bolts on both ends. So remove this. And another thing is that you have better grip on the pump block itself. So align this and this towards the point. But before you do so, make sure you remove off this, okay, where it says the pre-paste. Then align to the two screws, holding on to the block so that you have a even pressure. Tighten the screws, one round here, one round here, then again switch position, one round here, one round here. Do it this way, okay, alternate, so that you have even pressure of the whole cold plate touching the processor. So assuming this is done, next thing you need to feather, okay, probably you can place this back, having the cable tucked this way, okay, align this two arch to the tube and put it back, and to feather with these two cables. First, most important, which is the pump, plug it to your AIO underscore pump, or over here is known as pump underscore fan. Reason for this, as it has stronger amperage, so that your pump, right, will cycle consistently. Just plug it in. The next thing you need to do, okay, let me just get this out of the way, is to plug the ARGB connector. Now, some of the headers do not have enough ARGB headers, so what will I do? I'll just put this one side, feeder with your radiator fans, which is this. Okay, you have two connectors over here. Now again, on the 4-pin PWM fan header, I will plug this to the CPU fan one, which is down here. Now, reason for the CPU underscore fan, right, or CPU underscore fan one, that is the master controller. In some boards, especially ASUS, if you don't plug anything to the CPU underscore fan, when you boot out the system, right, it will prompt you stating that there are no CPU underscore fan plugged in. So make sure you plug it to your CPU underscore fan. Now, as for the ARGB, as you can see, the fan cable, right, has a splitter. And earlier on, I mentioned to you that the pump, assuming that your motherboard does not have enough ARGB connector, you can daisy chain your pump ARGB header to the fan splitter. See? Then plug this to your motherboard ARGB socket, and this will control the ARGB both on your pump and on your fan blades. Now I forgot to mention that after you've done this, right, you can port this back depending on the orientation. As you can see, the circuit over here and the logo, this is the, in fact, this is the correct orientation. As you can see, this is the M.2 and this is the top heatsink. So this is the way. Unless you orientate in different direction of the tube, right, then you can just change the direction, and that's it, done. I'm going to conduct a sound test, starting off with just the pump itself. Then later part, I will test the pump together with the radiator, using Cinebench to run the processor at full load. And this is my microphone sound test, and this is how it sounds like when I place the pump near, when I place the microphone near the pump. Right now I'm just going to place the microphone to this stand where it will pick up the pump together with the radiator, and this is at idle. I'm just going to ramp up the Cinebench R23, and this is how it sounds like at load. Now I'm going to let you hear the idle noise again. This is how it sounds like at idle. And I'm going to ramp up the Cinebench again, and this is how it sounds like at load. Now while I'm testing this, right, I'm away from my system, about 2 feet away. I can hear the fan ramping up, but the noise is not sharp. It's a very smooth hum. And if I were to place this inside the case, right, I can't hear it at all. As for the pump, right, since my ears are not near the pump, I couldn't hear a single thing. Okay, probably you can hear through the microphone, but honestly speaking, away from this system, right, open bench, it's 2 feet away, I can't hear anything. I can only hear the fans ramping up, but it's not irritating. And imagine that if this were to place inside a case, right, I believe that I can't hear anything at all, as I will be away from the case about 1 to 1.5 meter away on my desk. Now another point is that for the ARGB effects, right, it's very simple. As you can see, the blades do have the ARGB effect, and on the pump itself, only this crest area, which you see overall aesthetic, right? My motherboard is in black. The thing that pops up is only this crest, which is very elegant, and the diffusion of the blade are nicely done. And also coming to effect whereby no complication or background application and such, is just plug and play. Make use of your motherboard ARGB utility, right, to control all the ARGB effects. Now I'm going to conduct the thermal test in a non-aircon environment, as I like to show results based on hot and humid country. And in my country right now, the room temperature is at 30 degrees Celsius. In fact, it hovers around 30 to 31. Since it's in the early morning, it's at 30 degrees Celsius. And I'll be using a 7950X processor to run the whole run. We'll be using Cinebench and Firmark together, as no discrete graphic card being used, and I'll just run the test to stress mainly on the processor and see how much this liquid AIO can perform. As mentioned to you, I'm using a 7950X processor from AMD, and for the rest of the specs you can just pause it and have a look. I've enabled expo profile on my DDR5 RAMs, and as for the PBO2 limits, these are the settings that I've done. Okay, you can pause it and have a look. And for the value of PPT, TDC and EDC, right, you can see on the Ryzen Master, which I deliberately pull out when I'm conducting the test. Now, how I conduct the test is pretty straightforward. I done 3 sets. The first set with the original pre-paste that comes with the liquid AIO. I run 30 minutes followed by 5 minutes idle, and last 10 minutes, which is the throttle test, and I'm recorded down. The second set, I remove off the block, I clean off everything, repaste my own style, and to place it back. And again, I run the 30 minutes stress test, 5 minutes idle, and the last 10 minutes throttle test, which I recorded down again. For the third set, just want to reconfirm that, you know, I'm doing it correct, I dismount the liquid AIO again, I mean the block, repaste, put it back in, and did the test again, which is 30 minutes, 5 minutes, and 10 minutes. So I've collected 3 sets of data, which is the last 10 minutes of each set. And from there, right, I pick the best, which is my style of applying the paste, and this is what you will see. So as I run, right, the first few minutes, nothing much to see. Okay, it can pull up to 5.2 gig clock speed for most of the, for the first 8 core, not a problem. And it's able to boost 5.5 gig. So as I would to go further, right, as in like to push it all the way to the last 3 minutes. Okay, I'm pulling right now. Okay, somewhere around here. Yep. So as I run, right, take a look at the temperature. It's hovering around 82 degrees Celsius. In fact, throughout the 3 records, right, it's hovering around 80 to 83 degrees Celsius. But this was the best one, which is hovering around 81 to 82 degrees Celsius. And when I look at the rest of the temperature, right, it's doing fine. The motherboard is at 44.5 or 44 degrees Celsius consistently. And do take note that my radiator fans is not blowing air to push off from the motherboard. In fact, it's pushing away. Then the MOSFET, yes, it's a bit hot, but not very hot. It's at 61 to 62 degrees Celsius, which is okay, so long it doesn't go above 65. By the way, the MOSFET are the VRM area. Looking at the DDR5 RAMs, right, see, it's not even going above 50 degrees Celsius. Same goes to my M.2. And looking at all this, right, it's hovering around 5.2 gig to 5.175 gig. And with this say, right, it's consistent. Why do I say that? Take a look at the graph. See, it's very consistent. This is telling me that this liquid AIO is able to sustain whatever configuration that I give it to it. If it's not able to, right, you will see a lot of jagged, like these lines over here. See, like the dip, I would say. You will see lots of dip inconsistently. So at this frequency, right, and at this drawing of the amperage and the power drawn, right, it's very consistent. See, 185 and so watt the power package on the CPU is drawing, and giving it consistent to run at this clock frequency. Well done. There are pros and cons regarding about this Valkyrie V360 Lite. In fact, there are more pros than cons. Starting off with the pros, the design of it is very slick, very simple. The ARGB effects is very straightforward. No third-party application is needed. All is needed, plug to your motherboard ARGB header and make use of the application that comes with your motherboard to control the ARGB effect. And if you have separate ARGB headers, right, you can even control the colors separately, as in like the block having one color, the blade are having another color. And best part is that from here, right, you might not be able to see the diffusion much on the blade itself, but there is cone shape, okay, lines that is, you know, spread across evenly on the blade, which is a very nice effect. So it's something which I like. Now there is a story regarding about Valkyrie. 3 years back, I have set up a system for a friend who had bought the Valkyrie Liquid AIO. I believe that is the Dragon Fang, and I was impressed with the design. No other, you know, kind of like too much ARGB. In fact, that cylinder on the block itself, right, it can spin. I was impressed with that design. It looks very posh, and that is made of, I believe that is actually made of non-rust metal. Should be aluminium. It's very nice. And when I tested the system for him, right, with that liquid AIO, I was utterly impressed with the thermal temperature. And same goes to this liquid AIO. Okay, I was expecting something good because I know that after reading through some research and such, right, Valkyrie is making use of their in-house pump, and I have read many successful story regarding about how they design a pump and how it's able to perform. Now this is a 2800 RPM pump. Okay, as I've shown you the result, it can hover around 82 degrees Celsius max. And best part is the fans, which is running at 2150 RPM, okay, tops. It is able to cool down my 7950X without any issue, and to sustain the frequency, which is at 5.2 or 5.175 gig at base clock. And I show you the graph, it's very consistent. It is able to handle. And on top of which, right, the fans which I show you how the cutting and design, right, it does check out. And the drawing amperage is 0.2 ampere. And it did specify that the noise resolution is at 30.5 decibel, if I'm not wrong. It does check out. It is utterly silent. And the static pressure, right, it does check out too, based on the fact that whatever is passing through, I mean the heat to the radiator, right, with that high static pressure, 4.0 millimeter H2O, right, see what happened. Consistent frequency on base clock, which is good, and able to sustain and to draw at those amperage. And the rest of my component, right, are running cool. As mentioned to you, the radiator fans is not blowing towards the motherboard area to cool down the component. In fact, it's away, and it's still able to sustain. Fantastic. All right, now coming to the con, there's only one. I totally dislike how to mount on both platform, Intel and to AMD, based on the fact that I have to place the standoff for Intel, right, the standoff, then the fasten bracket, fasten it with the bolt, then I can execute as in like placing the block. Same goes to AMD, having the bracket, then place the fasten brackets followed by the bolt, then to mount it. I wish that Valkyrie can actually do it in a way that, you know, to have the fasten bracket on the block itself. Then I can just mount the bracket and just plug it in, and that's simple. Now also another point, okay, that is the thing that which I do not like. Right, now besides this, right, there are none other bad points. Now coming back again, I missed out one point, whereby now, as you can see that how well it did perform, it's not based on a high-end thermal paste. I'm using the default thermal paste that comes with this liquid ARO. First was the pre-paste, it went up to 83 degrees Celsius, okay, max. Then for my own method, right, using their paste to paste on the second round, it was around 82 to 83. Okay, it's like switching. For the third set that I've done, right, it went 81 to 82. The thermal paste is also of a very good quality, and if I am to apply, you know, high-end thermal paste, right, like thermal grizzly or maybe, you know, MS6 or whatever, I believe the temperature, right, will hover around 79 degrees to 80 degrees Celsius based on the configuration that I've done. So you see, it's fantastic. All right, before I end, I'd like to hope if you guys have enjoyed what I've shared with you, right, do me a favor, click on the like button, okay, which I hope that you guys will do that. And in the meantime, I'd like to thank Valkyrie to have sent this unit for me to share with everyone. Thank you very much, a fantastic experience. And for those of you who are actually new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to hit on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.